Hello everyone. Welcome back. I'm Bumi, and today we are watching Our Geese OP by TierZoo. Yes, this one was suggested by Sammy DeVito 6900 over here. And yeah, are they OP? I don't know. I don't know a lot about geese. To be perfectly honest, I don't know the difference between a goose and a duck. So there's that. I'm guessing geese are larger than ducks. But aside from that, I have no idea how to tell them apart. Yeah, I've seen those videos about like geese chasing people. I'm not sure if ducks do that, but yeah, aside from that, there's literally not much that I know about this animal. So I'm gonna let TierZoo walk me through this. So remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to leave a like, let me know your thoughts on the video down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing. Again, we are trying to get to 1,000 subs this year, so hopefully you guys can help me out with that. Also, don't forget to leave your suggestions on what I should check on next. That being said, let's go ahead and watch the video.
This episode was sponsored by Squarespace.
A menace to society.
We all know that humans are overpowered and deserve a nerf.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't any good counterplay options. And while there are plenty of builds in the game that can harass humans, none have achieved the same infamy that the Goose has. The Goose is easily one of the most polarizing characters in the entire game, with plenty of players complaining to the devs that it needs to be nerfed. But let's do a deep dive into their stats and abilities before we jump to conclusions here. Are they really that OP? Are there any really solid counterplay options? Let's start with their two signature abilities. The first one dramatically boosts their resolve, granting near total immunity to intimidation effects. While the second one drastically increases the effectiveness of the Goose's own intimidation abilities. This can lead to some absolutely hilarious situations, where builds which could potentially one-shot a Goose don't even have enough resolve to resist losing their nerve. The bigger the opponent is, the
Yeah, so they're basically like the intimidation animal.
less effective their intimidation effects are against geese.
Grab the neck!
So while a dog may spook them, behemoths like giraffes, cows, and elephants are unable to scare off the Goose. Next, let's have a look at the base stats of the Goose. Right off the bat, we notice that their best stat is HP, followed closely by their mobility. This is a bit of an unorthodox build, to be honest, which could be part of the reason that they're so successful. Most tanks tend to have high HP, of course, but they also tend to favor defense and power over mobility. But there's one other thing worth paying attention to on this stat chart, their power level.
Yeah.
The Goose build's max hit is so low that it would take ages for them to ever actually bring down an opponent's HP to 0. In some cases, their DPS literally can't even match the natural health regeneration of their targets.
Yeah, they're just gonna annoy other animals to death, basically.
So how is it that a build with almost no combat potential has been so dominant in the meta lately? Well, it ties back into their abilities. Intimidation-based abilities synergize perfectly with the Goose's stats. Their goal with Intimidation is to grant themselves control over an area. And when it works, the Goose player typically doesn't actually deal any damage in order to end the battle. But should the target resist their Intimidation attempts, the two most important stats are going to be HP and Mobility. HP so that if the opponent counterattacks, you'll be able to take a hit or two and still keep up the pressure. And Mobility so that if they actually do turn the tide of battle, you'll be able to escape. In addition to having good stats for the job, the Goose build is also perfectly suited to conquer the newly created city park biomes that have become more
City
commonplace
park
due to the continued
biomes.
dominance of the human build. So what can you as a player do to counter the Goose's notorious strategy? Well, I think the chink in the armor is pretty apparent. They do basically no physical damage,
Yeah.
so your own HP and defense level is not really something you need to worry about if you end up in a skirmish with them. Their attack strategy depends entirely on intimidation, so if your character can resist their intimidation attempts, you'll have pretty much won the battle before it ever began.
I mean, say for example, you're in a city park. We don't have this in our area or in our city, but say for example, you're in a city park. A goose chases you down and basically flies in your face. Are you gonna get like penalized, or like is something bad legally gonna happen to you if you end up killing one of the goose in retaliation? Or not even in retaliation, in like self-defense. I don't know. Are they protected? Or can you like defend yourself and kill them without any repercussions? That I don't know.
So to increase your chances of resisting intimidation, you need to have a high resolve stat, which can be gained either by having high intelligence or by playing in groups. Once you've managed to stay in the fight, winning should be relatively easy, but I have some tips for that too. Geese really have only 3 different attack moves, those being Aerial Ace, Wing Attack, and Peck. Aerial Ace and Wing Attack are both pretty standard rushdown attacks, being short-ranged and low power. But Peck is an interesting move, because it's technically a spacing type move. It has a lot of range, like most spacing attacks do, but the interesting part about it is that it's actually very vulnerable. Most spacing moves rely on a disjointed weapon that can pressure an opponent from a safe distance. Whether it's in the form of horns, claws, or a long beak, the function is basically the same. But with Geese, instead of using a protected part of their build, they're actually taking a huge risk whenever they lunge at a target. So if you target their neck and punish them whenever they try to peck you, you can really make
just
a match.
Grab the neck.
Another thing that's near impossible for them to deal with is stealth, since their intimidation abilities are useless when they can't see the attacker coming before it's too late. So with that in mind, here are some basic tips for beating Geese. Number 1, try to resist intimidation. Number 2, target their weak point for massive damage. And number 3, use stealth to prevent them from abusing intimidation abilities. Now, for
just
you
main
Goose mains
cloud.
out there, don't worry, I'm not just going to give away all your secrets without giving you a tip as well. This is a big one. Goose players, you need to do a better job avoiding grabs. The high mobility stat doesn't do you any good.
I mean, it's not really up to them. Their neck is so open, and it doesn't look like they are very fast when it comes to head movement. So you can pretty much grab them by the neck, literally, and choke them out.
Caught and can't fly away or swim. Because geese, like most birds, have hollow bones, they're especially vulnerable to crush-type damage, the kind often inflicted from grabs. The obvious implication here is that learning different matchups is important. You need to learn which builds are focusing on finding grabs. You also need to recognize that all 3 of your offensive moves have a blind spot directly behind you.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely essential that you don't let an opponent cross you up and grab you from behind, because once that happens, you're out of options. This makes it especially difficult to battle 2 opponents at once, since it's nearly impossible to avoid getting grabbed by one while you're attacking the other. Really,
That is
the
so
best
cute.
tip I can give Goose mains is that you should switch to a build that can actually back up its intimidation attempts. A build that even geese are afraid of. The Swan.
The swan.
Swans are basically everything scary about geese, but shifted to
Ooh,
maximum.
wow.
Unlike
That's
geese,
a lot of
swans can dish out some
stats.
serious damage. And on top of that, their aesthetics level is one of the highest in the game. But yeah, swans
Yeah.
and geese, both excellent builds. But in my opinion, the Swan is the better choice because of their higher power and better aesthetics. Aesthetics is something that is difficult to master, not
There
only
you
in
go.
animals, but also in web design.
Okay, that is the segue to Squarespace, so I'm gonna skip that. Yeah, that was that was good. That was really good. I mean, like I said, I don't know the difference between a geese and a duck. I'm not even sure if there is much of a difference. Obviously, there is, since they are like categorized into different species. But yeah, I can get why they are intimidating. Something like that. Geese are decently large. I mean, decently large. They have web feet, but I don't know if they have like talons or sharp nails on their feet. I'm guessing that they don't. I also don't know how hard they bite with their peck, so I can't really say if like if I'm gonna win against a match. Obviously, I am most likely gonna win a match against a geese, but the initial like intimidation will of course freak me out. I mean, seeing something that big come running and then jumping and flying towards you, that is pretty scary, not gonna lie. But aside from that, if you manage to push through that, you would be good. You can easily counter them with a lot of different things, especially as a human. So yeah, that's gonna be it for me today, guys. Link to my Twitter is down in the description below. Go to check it out if you want to. And if you're new here and enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like. Let me know your thoughts on the video down in the comment section below, and consider subscribing. Again, we are trying to get to 1,000 subs this year, so hopefully you guys can help me out with that. Also, don't forget to leave your suggestions on what I should check out next. That being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!